This is our 4th day this week, and we are going to be making the box card, which I think is the showstopper of the 2023 Christmas range this year. I have to say, I think this is the most complicated card that I've designed and sold. So settle in. I've got a lot to get through today, so I want to get cracking because I think it could take the full hour today. I'm just waiting for my screen to catch up so I can see. Excellent, there we go. So if you're watching along live, do say hello in the live chat function. If you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to know where you are, and do say hello and I can say hello back. If you are catching this on the replay, add a little note in the comments to say hi, and if you've got any questions, you can ask on there and I'll get back to you. We have a sort of white card blank version and a craft card blank version. This one's a bit different. So they are quite different. So we've got the green base and the craft. So we've got Christmas puddings and snowmen. I'll try to tilt this down. This whole thing, I need to photograph them and video them. They all have to be at an angle. They are beautiful. So what's special about these cards is that they fold down to make a beautiful flat. So it goes easily into an envelope and can be sent. But when you fold them out, they look really stunning on display. And I'll be showing you how to make them. So we've got in here, I've got an advanced version of this kit, which I'll show you how to make. And if you've got the beginner's version, you've got a few bits that are already made for you. So we'll naturally go from advanced to beginners through this tutorial, and you'll be able to see when it switches over. And my voice is already sounding a bit croaky, not a good sign. Just having a sip of drink. So that's the advanced version that we're going to be doing onto the beginner's version. But if you've got the expert kit this year, so if you've bought the stamps, these are they. If you've bought the stamps and then the cardstock to make these cards, or you've got your own stash of card, then you can follow along with these and just make the different components yourself. So what you'll need for those, obviously you've got the Happy Christmas greeting, that's the same on both of them. And is that the only thing that's the same? I think it might be. So after that, for the puddings, you'll need the big pudding and the little pudding, 2 of those, and the holly leaves. And I've used some red buttons for these. And that's it for that stamping. And then for the other one, for the snowmen, obviously you've got the snowmen, you've got the different faces along the bottom here, and the Christmas trees in the background. So that will make that card. So let me put that to one side. But the main step for this card, which I'd like to show you, is to create the template for the box card blank. So I'm going to do that first before I get this out. So if you have the expert kit and you're not sure how to go about making these, this is a quick guide for you, and it is all based on let's do this way around. All based on a piece of A4 card. I've designed it that way for ease and convenience for you guys and for me, because this is what I have in stock here, so it means I can make these cards without ordering any special extras. And we actually use virtually all of this card, so it's no wastage, and it fits perfectly for a 6x6 envelope. So it's a win-win. So to start off with, and I do apologise, I do switch between inches and centimetres quite freely. It doesn't bother me. I've got no preference over one or the other. I just basically, whatever is more precise for what I'm trying to do, if that makes sense. So sometimes the perfect rectangle I want is 3 inches by 7 centimetres, and that's how it works. So what we are going to do, so we're going to start off and just make sure you've got a nice crisp edge. I find some of the cardstock has a slight lip on the edge, so if I'm being fussy, which I am when I'm making your cards, it's going to be quite noisy on the mic, I think that's guillotine. I'm going to just cut off a sliver on one end, and we're going to cut this down to 14 centimetres. Make sure it's nice and flush against here so it's straight. 14 centimetres, excellent. And that's it for that cutting. So move this out of the way, that will come back to that bit later. And then what I'm going to use now is a, I don't know how to pronounce this, doogie board? Not sure. But this is an embossing board. This is a very large one. You might have smaller ones. Basically, it's got grooves in straight lines. These are in 0.5 centimetre gaps, and then on the other side you've got inches. So I'm going to use the centimetre side. And if you don't have one of these, what you can do is score it with a ruler and what I'm going to use, a dry embossing tool, and that will give you the grooves. I recommend measuring it. But the benefit of this is that it's all perpendicular and you get a perfect measurement, so I don't need to pre-measure. But if you are doing it by ruler, I would measure top and bottom, so that you know you've got a straight perpendicular line, because otherwise the box doesn't fold up as well. I'm just going to get the angle right here so I can do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the first one that I've got, the ball bearing at the top, and I'm going to add a groove on 7 centimetres, holding it firmly in place, dragging down, and then 14, and then 21, and we want 28, and so 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that fits perfectly along the length of the A4 card, with a nice little bit for a tab for us to glue at the end. Perfect. And I'm going to rotate it round, and then through the middle I'm going to put a 7 centimetre. Make sure I've got this on the table enough. There we go. Okay, so right, I believe this is now what's how the advanced kit turns up, just folded in on itself, just the packaging. So I'm going to put that to one side, and I think we're ready to open up this one, and I'll explain what the next steps is when you're making that. Yep. So we are making the Christmas pudding version today. So I'm going to push the snowman out way slightly, so we've got one other place. And let me just talk you through what you've got in this kit. Out of the way. Let's slide off. So you've got the 6x6 envelope, matching in craft. So for the green snowman card, it's a white card it comes with. Lots of goodies in here. So we've got the card blank, as I mentioned, so it's got the grooves there, but it's not cut yet. We'll be doing that. And then we've got these 2 bits of craft. They look like they could just be random bits of packaging. Don't throw them away. They are the inner workings of the box. We'll be using those. Then you've got 3 strips of acetate. Again, be careful not to accidentally throw them away. They can disappear quite easily. And then we've got 3 puddings with faces on brown card, and then the cream without the faces because we're just going to use the icing from those. Then we've got a happy Christmas greeting, and we've got green square, red square, and then we've got 3 larger cream squares which we're going to use to cut out to make the icing. And then we've got 6 holly leaves and 3 buttons and a little stretch of embroidery thread, which is 6 strands there, so you can split it into 3 sections, so two strands in each, and we'll use that to stitch on the buttons. Beautiful. So if you've got the snowman kit, I've got a few of the bits and pieces here just to show you, and you've got a few different steps to do. So if you've got the snowman, you'll have Christmas trees ready to colour in. So I've coloured them in with Pro markers, and what I've done is I've used a black fine liner to draw the line of snow, like those little droplets of snow, across the top, and then coloured in the rest green. It's quite a nice striking effect. So that's those. You'll also get a 3 snowmen, so you just need to cut those out. You can, if you wish, colour in the hats and scarves on those white ones, or if you want to live in more of a challenge, you can cut out these hats and scarves and then stick them on top. Makes a nice sort of a subtle sort of 3D effect when it's there. So that's what we're doing for the snowmen. But for us, we've got the puddings. I'm going to start off by showing you how to construct the box first. And I'm going to use my scissors. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by cutting. So it doesn't matter if it's top or bottom, it works its way out either way. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut one of these small rectangles off and cut the other one. I hope you can see that fold. Let me just fold it again, make it a bit clearer on the camera. So cut one of them off completely, and the other one we're going to turn into a tab. So I'm just going to cut it at a nice angle. No one's going to see this, so it doesn't have to be too neat. There we go. And that's the starting of our box. So once we've done that, so we're then going to split the top ones. So the one with the tab on, that one stays complete. That's the base of your box. And then you're going to cut down the fold lines of each of these. And you might find on how it's been folded, you'll get sort of quite a ridge on one side or the other. So it's up to you whether you want to cut on both sides of that and cut a sliver out to avoid that. I'm not going to today. Go with the rusticness of the box. And just fold them out slightly. Flatten it out with a nail. There we go. And then we're going to bring it back round. So if you haven't folded all the lines yet, you'll see that it kind of folds and opens like a box. So what we're going to do before we start folding it into a box, we're going to stick this down because at the moment it's beautifully flush, and we want to keep that. So to glue this tab, we want some really strong glue. And also quick. So I think the sort of wet glue glossy accents would hold, eventually would hold, but I'm going to go with a little bit of a fast track here. I'm going to use the red tape, which is reserved by crafters for the really, really tricky jobs, because it is incredibly strong. And I'm going to put 2 strips there, and just be careful where it sticks to, because it will not become unstuck. So 2 strips on there. Oh, did I do that too long? Maybe doing it by eye. It's a little bit too long, so I don't want it to go over the edge. That's it, and then push these down so there's no air bubbles in them. And then if you've got a sharp edge of a nail, or use the edge of the scissors to peel off the backing. These backing bits are really static, I found. I'll find them attached to my legs or clothing for a few days after using it. And then we can fold it back down so we get a lovely sharp edge there. Hold down in place, but that will stick instantly for those ones. And then we can open it out, so you'll be gently folding the ones that haven't actually been folded yet. That's it. And then for the flaps to fold down, ideally what we want to do is keep the one at the back, I say unfolded, but it's kind of, it will get folded eventually, but it's if we don't fold it too aggressively, it will stay as a sort of a backdrop. So what you want to do is decide where your front and back is. So I'm going to aim to have the little tab that we've glued in the back right corner, and then I'm going to fold down the sides and the front. Okay. There we go, so we get a nice box shape. Now for the inside of the box, what we're going to do is we're going to create a little pocket inside to put the acetate strips in. So this is where I've kept it as one in the centre, but if you're making your own, you can go all out here and you can have like 3 layers and have lots more things coming out, but the principle is the same. So part of these working, so you've got a strip which is, I remember, 11 centimetres long with a groove at 2 centimetres, I get my maths right, 2 centimetres and 9 centimetres, so that it's a 7 centimetre gap, so it fits into the box perfectly. And these are our tabs to glue on the end. And then this is a bonus piece which will form our pocket, so it fits just in the inside of there. So what we're going to do is create the pocket first. So again, I'm going to use the red tape. I didn't use red tape, but as it's out, I feel like we'll use it for all the construction. So I'm going to use the red tape. It doesn't have to be as strong for this though. And I'm going to place one strip along the bottom, and then another one on one side, and then the other side. Just like that, but I'm not going to put anything on the side because that's sort of that's forming our pocket. So I'm going to peel this off. being tricky. Okay, and then we're going to avoid the 2 crease lines, and we're going to stick that flush onto there. And then if you want to put something to mark that that's the top, you're very well, because it's very snug fit. It can be difficult to remember which way is up. So if you want to just do that, or a slight pencil mark or something, but you won't be able to take it off again if it's pencil mark, because you can't get a rubber in there once you've stuck it down. And then fold the ends. And we're going to add some more tape to the ends of there. So again, I'll do 2 layers. This is going to be taking, especially with opening and closing the card. This is where the pressure is to stay glued. I've always thought about doing that when I've been making these, but I've never actually done it, so I'm actually thinking it's making it quite a bit easier. So I'm going to take these off, but I'm going to have to be very careful because they are very sticky. Probably should have demoed without having them off first, but that's what we're going to do. So and fold them in on themselves a little bit to give you a bit more time to get this sorted. So again, get your box in the right position with the one at the back. I'm going to slide this in, and it can be like halfway down the box or at the bottom. If it's not I'd avoid having it near the top, because then people can see what's going on. And I'll do it halfway depth from front to back. Once you're happy that it's in position, gently tap on the sides. Don't do it firmly at this point, because what we're going to do to force it to stick is we need to do it in a closed position. So we're going to gently fold the box, and you might find, depending on what glue you've used, this is holding very well. This is the first time it hasn't just popped off. So I found that when I've placed it in there, it's not quite the right angle for the box to close, so it will ping off, and then you push it flat. So that is the position it needs to be in, if that makes sense. So the closed position is more important than the open position, bizarrely, because that'll be fine, otherwise it won't shut. So I've held that shut, then I'm putting strong pressure on that tape to make sure that holds, and there we have it. So I can take out my marker now. It's in the right place. All of my equipment in this corner is now covered in the red backing tape. Beautiful. Okay, so, and this is what arrives in the beginner's kit. So you have a folded box card ready to go. So if you like making these, you can always add to it, add your own embellishments, but it's very useful to have that card blank. Right, shall we do some cutting? I am conscious that I'd like to follow, there's a lot of things to do, and I'd like to follow the same order that I've written it in the instructions. So forgive me, I will check in the instructions, but they are quite long. So if you have got the kit, you'll have full written instructions with them as well, or you can just follow along here. So we're going to start off with, so there's a whole block for what you do with the snowmen, which we've talked about already, and then the Christmas pudding version. So we're going to start off by colouring in the leaves and the holly berries. So I've got foam markers to do this, but any pens will do. This is it's on the cream card, so it's not like the white card that I use for pro markers that is spot on. So do be aware that this will bleed slightly quicker. So if you want to just test and judge what a light tap will do, whatever pens you're using, it's always best to check that you're not necessarily colouring in the berries as just tapping it and letting it bleed out to the edges. Down. And then colour in the leaves. Hold that up so you can see. Hopefully that will focus for me today. And then, right, we're going to be cutting out the icings, but let me just check that that's what we're what we're doing. Cut out the icing, there we go. So we don't actually use the rest of this Christmas pudding, so we're going to cut around and we're going to cut out the icing. So alternatively, if you wanted to use these, you could colour them in brown, maybe draw a face on or stamp your face. That's an alternative, but I'm going to cut these out, and I've got a nice sharp pair of small scissors, and I'm just rotating the card and keeping my scissors still and just rotating around the loops. And then ever so often I will cut off the excess card as I'm going, because it causes a bit of like drag on the scissors. It just makes it more difficult to get those finer details, and there's no prize for having like the whole image cut out in one go. Yeah, so I was thinking this is quite a fiddly bit of cutting out to sort of start with. I was going to say I'll recommend sort of starting with like the Happy Christmas and things, just to get into the flow of cutting out before doing this one, and sort of glance at the instructions and yes, we missed that step. But we'll go back and do that. And so in the beginner's kit, this is all cut out for you. So it's up to you. If you're watching this, you're welcome to watch along, have a cup of tea, and wait until we get to the point where we're into beginner's kit, or you can, if you're watching the replay, you can fast forward. There we go, that one. So I'm going to give myself a little break now and cut out the Happy Christmas because it's nice and simple. So we're going to cut around the outside of the black circle. go. Just move some of this out the way. Don't want to get it mixed up with my red tape because that's not recyclable. But this stuff is. So Happy Christmas. Let's do some of these. So if you've watched my videos before, I don't do any sort of Blue Peter style. Here's one I made earlier. The idea is that if you've got the kit, you can make it along with me at the same pace. So, in fact, I think I generally find that people are quicker than me when they're making my kits. So, I think because I'm talking as well. And I found it quite relaxing. So these are the smaller ones, so it's slightly more wiggly woggly. Because we're layering this onto the brown puddings that are already stamped, this line of icing, you don't have to cut it out as exact because obviously the black of this line is going to be over the black of the other line, and you won't see the line that you've cut. So that's quite nice to remember. Go. And this one, bang. I think I prefer to start with the icing. I've been indecisive about this, but I generally find with the kits after I've cut them out several times to make orders and stock for events that I have like a same way of cutting out each object. A nice bit that I like to start with, and I think I prefer cutting out the icing first while you've got something to hold on to, and then the holly leaves. I'm such a perfectionist. If you know me, I've got I don't even be able to see on there. I've missed a tiny bit here, so there's a little bit of the cream card showing through. And what I'm going to do is just take a black fine liner. I'm just going to dab that on the edge, and it will disappear. There we go. It's a handy hint if you're wobbly cutting. So the next thing I'm going to do is cut out the puddings here, but don't worry, this is going to be a lot quicker and easier because it's the magic. We're not actually going to worry because we're going to cover the top with the icing. We're not going to worry about fussy cutting the top half. So you want this whole base of the card cut out, and when you get to the icing you can just cut it round within the black line to make a circle, and then make sure you come back out again at the end. Take a moment so you can see that, make sure that focuses. So I take ages for the video that I'm watching to catch up because of the delay. So we'll do the same with these two. Again, I recommend taking them off the rest of the card because it just gets in the way. I'll try and do something a bit closer. So we're going to go around the black edge on the base, and then when we get to the top, we can just cut. And we're going to keep it within. So the idea is that when you put this icing on top, it matches. You've got a nice top edge, and you're not seeing the bit you haven't cut. So same with this one. Go. Got those. Right, and then we're going to cut out the holly leaves. These are quite simple to cut out, and you'll see that the sort of the tips of the holly leaves are quite curved on the stamp. But when you're cutting out, you can cut them out into crisp points, and you can even curl the ends up as well. Kind of happens naturally if they're very pointy. Okay. Doing for time. Ooh. I knew it was going to be a long one, this one. Let's see. Go. And 3 more, and I think that's, I've got some icing to cut out, haven't we? So more cutting. I do believe, I think the sun has just come out. In a particularly grotty few days in the UK at the moment. I think the last 2 times I've left the house, I've been caught in an absolute downpour, and I've had to have come home and got changed each time. Absolutely drenched. So it's nice to see the sun. go. And one more. So all these pieces are made from lovely thick card, so they tolerate this sort of fussy cutting around it without losing their shape. Okay, so the next step. Let me just pick out the bits here that can be thrown away. So the next step we're going to do is cut out the icing drips on the side. So I've done these, is freehand the right word? But if you wanted to, you could draw with a pencil first, and then you could rub it out. I've kept these square. You don't need the whole square because obviously you're only cutting out half, but it means that wherever you're cutting, it's going to be the correct, because it's 7 centimeters across, so it will fit the box perfectly. So I'm going to attempt to do it freehand. And then you want to just loop round. Like 3 drips. Finish on the edge. So you need to do 3 of these. So you could, if you're economical, you could have used the other half, but I've gone slightly over half there. So if you've got any bits that are a bit sort of too angular, you can come back and trim them. And then one more. So in the beginner's kit, these are already cut out for you. Cut off that there. Right, wonderful. I think we can get rid of this mountain of cutting out now. I've got to make sure I've still got my acetate strips there. And I always collect old cereal boxes, which I fill with the cuttings. So just sweep that into there, and then the whole thing can go in the recycling. That box is nearly full. Wonderful. Okay, so I now believe we are at the beginner's bit. So if you had the beginner's kit, you should find all of these pieces like this with the box ready to go. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to follow the same order of instructions. Right, actually no, not quite there yet. Apologies. We need to draw some extra bits. So on the icing drips, what I've done is I've just added some lines and dots, and it matches what's on the stamp. So it just sort of ties it all together. So again, if you want to practice on the offcuts, you can. So I'm just using a nice black fine liner. just following the curve round. Okay. And then an added touch, it's quite handy to do this now actually, is to add little currants to the free flaps at the side. So I'm going to do that now as well. So I'm doing little clusters, some thicker than others. You might find you want to add more once you've got the icing on, because you might cover up some of them. Let's do this flat, that'd be nice. A bit more control over it. And again, it just matches the stamps, so it ties the design together. I bet you can't see it. It looks like I'm working in secret now. Box full of surprises. So there you go. So right, now we've got the 3 bits of icing. What we're going to do is put 2 holly leaves on each one. And then a button. So you can just play around with what angle you want them to be, depending on how big the icing drops are. You might want to have some off to one side. Remember, you don't want the holly to go off the edge, because it might stop the box from closing. So make sure they're pointing downwards. There you go. It's quite nice. Right, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to glue the buttons into place. So I've got a wet glue here. I am going to stitch them on, but I'm going to start by just gluing, placing some glue on the buttons just a little bit and avoiding the holes. Just going to let that dry a little bit. You know, this wet glue, it's very strong, but it takes a while to cure, I think is the right word, but it goes from very liquid, very runny. It just needs to get a little bit more tacky so that it actually doesn't spoil the project. Just going to move those slightly out of the way, so I'm going to lay that down. Go. I'm not going to put any pressure on that because that's there we go. I've got an air bubble in my glue, so it's squirting. And so it's coming out the top on its own. So I'm just going to get rid of that so I don't accidentally. And then the same with this one. Again, just avoid the holes. So if you want to, rather than sewing these on, you can stick them on. I would recommend that. I didn't even wait for that one to cure at all. But I didn't put much on that one at all. I'd recommend using glue dots. if you can get really small ones, because these are quite small buttons, if not, try and cut them down while they're on the plastic on the tape. Right, now that's had a chance to dry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pierce holes through the card. So the reason why we're just putting a little bit of glue on is just to hold it in place while we do this next step. They will be sewn on, so they won't need complete. And I'm going to open up these. I meant to test. I've got two. Let me see if I can thread needle. I've got that. If you were following on early this week, I've got the really large eye, like embroidery needle. But I'm worried it won't fit through these buttons. So let me try and thread this. There we go, first time. So I've just separated out 2 strands there on that needle. And then I'm going to get some foam to pierce some holes. So if you don't have any sort of foam like this, you can use a rolled up piece of blue tack. And let me just find my pokey tool. I went through before the start of this session. I tried to go through everything step by step, so I had everything on the table ready to go. I mean, this is where I work normally, so everything is within arm's reach anyway. But I was like, can't believe there's something I forgot. There was so much. Okay, so I'm going to pierce through the card with a hole. Look, that glue is still coming out on there. Let me just get some scrap card just to take away that bit of glue. And then with this one, so pierce all the holes, and then that makes the sewing a lot easier. You're not trying to pierce through cardboard with a needle. Go. So start from the back, sew up. Just going to keep a little bit back, hold on to it with my finger, and then I'm just going to sew over 3 or 4 times so you just get that nice edge. I've included a red embroidery thread in these kits. You're welcome to use that contrasting colour if you want it to stand out a bit more. I lost count. Oh no. I lost my needle. I bet it's not going to go this well the second time. Nope. So I'm just going to cut the edge so I get a nice crisp end to work with. At this point, I'm going to experiment and see whether this needle does fit through these holes. Oh, it does just. Test these. Yep. Yep, okay. I'm going to switch to this needle. Hoping you're having more luck with your thread. Go. Right, just once more through for this one. I think I might be able to get 2 buttons done with that length of thread. So cut this off. And I'm going to just secure the back with some washi tape. That's the benefit of stitching with card, is that you don't have to make the back neat as well. There we go. That's done. And I'll see if I can get this one. There's not much, is there? I might regret this. So the ones with the 4 buttons, up to you whether you do it as a cross or 2 lines. Lost it on the same one as well. I need one more time through. There we go. And some tape. I'd love to know in the comments when you actually finish the card. So I always have visions that I've just sort of rambled on and taken ages doing things, and then you guys are sitting there with your finished cards having a cup of tea while I'm still going. I'd be interested to know how the pace is, or whether you find you're catching up. So I could definitely go slower. I don't think I can go quicker. Not without some. Here's one I made earlier. Tricks. So let's sew this one. Feels a lot more nice with a longer thread, less risky. That'd be enough. Oh, don't need to cut washi tape with scissors. Let's make sure that hasn't gone over the edge. Quite close. Fine. Wonderful. So those 3 there. What we're going to do is we're going to stick those onto the box before we stick the leaves on. I'll come back to them. Leave it out the way. Just going to make sure we're going to do the next step in the right order. No, I'm changing the order because I'm going to stick the leaves on afterwards, because next of us will stick the leaves on. But I'm going to add the icing to the edges. So these are going to go on top of the side ones, and then on the top. So it's actually it's the opposite way. So it's coming from out of the box from the middle and then down from the top. So I guess choose your favourite to go on the top. This one's my favourite. And what we're going to do, we're going to glue them onto there. So a nice little 3D effect on here is to add some foam tape pads to the end of the drops, but then keep the top flush. So I'm going to add some glue to the top. So you might find double-sided tape easier with the button, but I managed to make it work. And then the foam pads, so you'll have foam pads in your kits. and they're double-sided and sticky, so I will cut. So make sure when you're cutting them that they're attached to both sides of the foam to make them smaller, and that means that you don't get as much stickiness on your scissors, which is very difficult to clean off. And that is us at the hour mark. Eek. I can say we're nearly there, but it is just construction now, so should we have one there? Actually, no, I'm not going to have one there. So take off the backing. I'm just going to cut that bit of thread because it looks like it could move and become visible. So this one's going to go at the top, so you keep it should be flush against the top and the same width. So it gives it that nice sort of 3D effect of the icing dripping. So same with these two. I'm going to do this. There we go. So cut all your squares. One more need. Actually, there's one long one here that's already done. So I'll use that. And then peel off backs. And then I'll place this one on the side. So it's going from the centre of the box Okay. One more on the other side. So I've done the same sort of 3D effect with the snow as well on the snowman version. I'll show you in just a sec. So again, the droplets of snow I've raised up on foam pads and stuck them flush. The difference is the background is different, so that's just the white card. The back. It's taking shape. Wonderful. Right, so now they're in place, we're going to stick the holly leaves on. So I'm going to stick these holly leaves on flat. You could put them on foam pads if you want, but I find it difficult to get the ends to go with the buttons. If that means they're floating in the air. And what you also find is that where it's got a long edge of the holly, it makes them too large. So once you're happy that you've got the position you'd want, what we're going to do is just cut off the end like that, and then glue that right up to the button, and that gives you the impression that it's going under. Depends how well the glue took at the beginning, you might be able to wiggle it under, but we don't need to worry about that. I think all my buttons are stuck quite well. So I'm going to add some of this wet glue on here, one. That's what you can see on the camera where that landed in the glue of the other one. Remove that. So again, just be mindful not to go over the edge. Some of the edges it does work because it does still fold, but I'd say for the first time making these cards, you need stay within the within the square, and then you can learn. Oh, that actually went underneath, and then you can learn where you can add extra bits. Let's do this one. Just going to get these ready as well. So try and pick up the pace, but I've got nowhere to be, so it's fine. And you can always fast forward. Okay. Got to put this one flat again, a bit easier. I like that one's kind of off centre on the back. It's quite nice. There we go, and just depending on what glue you've used, you might just need a bit more time to encourage them to stick down. Mine's lifting. I think with the pressure of the button at one end, it's causing the other end to lift. There we go. And then what we're going to do is add the icings onto the top of the puddings. So this is quite a nice gluing job because we know exactly where these are going to stick onto the brown puddings. So it means we can add the glue quite accurately onto the top of these. So up to you whether you could add these on with foam pads, but they're quite fiddly because they're quite small, and also because you've kind of got, there's a lot of, I'll say workings, but like when the foam pad raises up on the decoupage, you'll see the sort of two layers of imagery, which I think takes away from it a bit. I'm going to let that dry a little bit longer, and while we're doing that, I will stick the green card square onto the red. And get a nice even border all the way around. And then we can stick that straight onto there, and again get a nice even border around the edge. I'm going to do a bit of two different glues for this one, so I'm going to use the tape around the edge, and then just to make sure, I always like to double glue, two different types of glue, so that depending on what conditions the card's going to be kept in, if one glue fails, the other will step in. A nice even border, and this should be ready to lay on top. And you can also bring them, the icing slightly further down if you want to disguise the fact that it's the same image twice. Looks like cute from the back. Wonderful. In place. And then the Happy Christmas is going to be raised up on foam pads. So we can use them whole size. There. So squash them down to make sure they're stuck all over, and then peel off the backings. Makes it a bit easier to peel off when they're firmly in place. And then add your Happy Christmas, so make sure you get the happy at the top. Beautiful. And then I've still got the acetate sheets. They're still here. So these strips of acetate. So if you're making this with your own supplies, you can buy acetate sheets from like craft shops. Alternatively, keep an eye out for packaging that is the right sort of thickness and clarity. So you could cut them out. Just be careful when you're trimming them on a guillotine or scissors. You can create quite sharp corners. Especially if it's thicker, if you're taking it from packaging. So just be careful. Right, so we are going to add, so again I'm going to use the red tape because it's nice and strong. And I'm going to add red tape on the end of each of these. I can barely see what I'm doing. I'm not sure how the video is going to pick this up. I will hold them up in a sec to show you. Okay. Hopefully that will. So just on the end of each of these. So if you've gone too far, too much, that is just okay. Then you can always just trim down on the top. But I'll attach the free puddings on here. Now it's see-through and sticky. Ah. Okay. And lovely. I love it when I go all bubbly. So these two, the one at the back, they're not actually stuck in this box because we've made that pocket. So we're going to slide those in, which is quite handy because you can always rearrange it. So you can, if you want to, you can choose to fix them in permanently with some glue. Some slow drying glue would be good, so some wet glue to put in and then hold in place. But yep, so when you fold it shut, just make sure they're within the box. And then for this one, we're going to glue this to the front, the inside of the front of the box. And up to you how high you want it to be. So these ones, the two little ones, you can trim down the acetate strips. You want them lower. For this one, I want this to be as tall as it can be, but it can't go over the top like that because then it won't fit in the envelope. So I'm just going to make sure I can get it in the right place. I'm not sure that's quite how I was going to do that. I think I have to do it by I have to get it in the right place first before I can do that. So let's make that. I'm picking up tips as I go here. Okay, so fold the happy birthday, happy Christmas one up, and you can see where that lands. If you've got that as a guide, then we should be fine to go ahead and stick. So again, I'm going to use some thick the red tape. And I'm actually going to use 2 sections as long as it's gone a little bit over there. Just going to check how high. Yep. Got about the same space again, so I'm just going to use 2 bits. It's got a bit more of an anchor to it. Peel that off. And then now I've got this new tip. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to get the top of the pudding in line with the top of the Happy Christmas. Hold that down flat, make sure it's straight, and then just push the acetate down onto the box, and that will be stuck in the right place. Yay! I was like, it does work, it does work, it does work. Yes, it does. Excellent. So it's right on the edge there. Beautiful, and there we have it. I'm just checking if there's any more steps I was meant to do, but no, I think we are there. So these can be moved, and we can fold to fit into the envelope. I say writing on these cards. I would recommend writing on this panel at the back. It's up to you whether you want to put like a white bit of card to write on there. Maybe more importantly for the green card, it's quite dark depends who you're giving it to. Like, I've received black Christmas cards from friends who write with a silver pen, but I wouldn't dream of doing that for my father-in-law because you wouldn't be able to read it. So up to you whether you need to put an extra panel on the back. But yeah, there we have it. Thank you ever so much for joining me today and sticking with the oh wow, 20 minutes, 1 hour 20. That might be a record for me. And I hope you have as much fun as I do making these quite stunning box cards. And do let me know if you want to send me your pictures. You can send them to me via email. My email is Della, which is DELLA @dellabydesign.co.uk. Or you can find me on my socials. So on Facebook it's @DellaByDesign, and on Instagram is DellaByDesign. So do pop along. I'd love to see your pictures and have fun. Bye bye for now.